You guys really love tools. I mean, you guys really loved that last tool. Welcome back to Fantasy Hockey Podcast. I'm here with an update to explain what's new on the tool and also what the hell happened last time. Because if you remember, it broke. It wasn't working for a little bit. It was frustrating. It was crazy. So what ended up happening was so many people used the tool. The way we had built it was so that you could have custom fields and all this kind of good stuff. And it was hitting natural static servers constantly. It got way more popular than we expected. We pretty much overloaded their servers, so they had to block us. So we worked with them to fix things. I won't get into the details of how, but Brandon and I worked hard to get it in a good spot so that it doesn't hit static servers. And so now it works a little bit differently, but it's still just as useful, if not more useful. It's way quicker than last time as well. So that's actually a good thing. I'm not going to go into how to use it too much. The last video that I made is still pretty relevant in terms of how to use the tool because nothing has really changed from that perspective. The only thing different, of course, is there's not going to be custom date ranges. As you'll see, we actually added goalies. Goalies are new. So I'll go over how to use the goalie one in this one, but I'll leave kind of how to use the tool itself to the other video. So let's jump into it. So this is the new look to the tool. Very scary. Very scary, right? So again, if you've never used the tool, you'll land on this page. And what you need to do to use it first, don't request edit access. We will not give you edit access. Not how it works. You have to go up here to File, and then you have to hit Make a Copy. And it'll prompt you to make a copy into your own Google Drive. Do that, and then you'll be all set. Okay, so now the new Explore tool. There's no more custom date range or needing to reset the stats for season to date. Now what'll happen is we run something on another sheet, Brandon and I, that will update all the stats at 5 a.m. every single morning. So every single morning we pull the stats at 5 a.m. And so sometimes you'll see, for example, someone's numbers be off by a little bit. And that's just because, say there's a West Coast game that goes late. Sometimes Statric will wait for the games to close, for the stats to be final, and it won't make it in time for that update. So sometimes it'll be off by like one game. It's not too big of a deal. For the most part, normally they should all be completely up to date. So if they are off, just know that that's why, and it'll be fixed for the next day. Okay, so now what it shows is you'll see this season, so 1920 season, you'll see the last 7 days, you'll see last 30 days, and you'll see last year. So you get these 4 rows. Now, if you don't care about one, say you don't care about last 7, you can delete it. If you don't care about last 30, you can delete it. It will affect something that I'll explain right now. But very quickly here, one other thing. Let's say you only want to look at 1920 season and last 30 days. What you can do is you can select these 2 rows, and you can hide them. And then you only see last year and this season so far. So you can do that, nothing will break. Now, another really cool feature now that we added was you can now compare. So this difference row used to be only last year compared to this year, or how this year is going compared to last year, rather. And now you can change it up. So now you can look at last year versus their last 7. You can look at last year versus last 30 days. And you can look at season to date versus last 7. So how are they doing the last 7 days versus their whole season so far? You can do last 30 versus full season, and you can see last 30 versus last 7. So that's all really cool, and it should actually allow you to filter things by a lot differently. If you're saying, for example, for a pickup, you're looking at, like, let's say a Nick Schmaltz, you're saying, okay, well, his season has been good, but how has he been doing versus the last 7 days? You can do that by going to last standard, or STD, just season to date, versus last 7. And how has his season been versus his last 7 days? Has he been better or worse? Whatever, that kind of thing. And really for those, I would use more of like the shot paces, just kind of the pace stuff, because obviously his points are going to be down, but you can use points per 60. You can use average time on ice, that kind of stuff, right? So this is a really powerful tool here for the difference row, different from last time where it was stuck to just 1. Now you can actually check out a lot of different things. Now, the Goalie Explore tool. I'm excited about this one. So we built this one out. Finally, we got goaltenders in. People last time were asking about goaltenders, and we finally were able to build that in for you. So here's what it is. It has all the goaltenders, and it has 1920 season, the league average for this year, and last year's numbers for that goaltender. League average is important because, for example, save percentage normally tends to pivot, or at least save percentages at certain strengths. So this is high danger save percentage, mid danger save percentage, and low danger save percentage. That's what these 3 are here. those normally pivot around the average. That's normally what you'll see from a goaltender. If it's too high compared to the average, normally you're going to expect that to come down. If it's too low, you can expect it to come up. So if we look at Dubnyk down here at the very bottom, for example, and we look at his high danger save percentage right here, last year he was at 78.3 versus the league average of 80.6. Now, yes, he's lower, but that's okay, right? You can finish lower. You just don't want to be wildly lower. For example, right now, he's at 64.2 compared to 80.6 on the season average, right? So you would expect this high danger save percentage to come up and at least be similar to last year. So this is something that you can immediately point to and say, okay, well, he's way lower than league average and lower than last year's. And so that's really what you use it. And you look at a guy like Jordan Binnington, who has an insane high danger save percentage, and this is where you kind of look at it from both angles, right? You say, well, he's at 87.8. He's way higher than league average, but what did he finish at last year? And he had a really good season last year too. So maybe that's just kind of the goaltender he is. I would argue not. Most goaltenders tend to pivot around the average. So I think at some point eventually Jordan Binnington will come to some kind of reality check. But that's a good way to use kind of the league average is compare it to last year and see how it's doing. There's also an expected goals against per game. So I used expected goals against total and divided it by the games played and looked at what's their expected goals against per game. So you can take a look at how many goals you expect for a goaltender to get against per game. So that might help. Like in a pickup, for example, today, Philip Grubauer is out. So I would maybe go, or he was announced that he's going to be out for a bit. I would go to Pavel Francouz and look at Pavel Francouz and see what his expected goals against per game is. Now, granted, you can't really compare too much to last year because he didn't play very many games last year, but this year you can look and you can say, okay, per game, I expect Pavel Francouz to get around 2 goals against per game normally. So that's pretty helpful. It also has goals against average. And all of these markers here, the red and the green, do indicate whether something is good or bad. For example, rush attempts per game. So how many odd man rushes do they get against per game? If it goes up, that's going to be in the red. So a positive there is actually bad for a goaltender because you don't want more rush attempts per game. You want less. That's a defensive thing, but still affects the goaltender. Same with rebounds. Same with shot distance. Shot distance, you want it to go up, not down, because if you're limiting shots to the perimeters, the shot distance is going to go up, not down. So if it's going down, teams are getting a little closer in for shots. So all of these kind of indicators for red and green do reflect kind of whether it's good or bad. It's not just like a skater where positive is good and negative is bad. With a goaltender, depending on the category that you're looking at, higher or lower may be good or bad. So definitely pay attention to these and don't just look at positive and say, oh, positive, cool, that's good. And I left saves per game. So this is kind of an average save per game. That's also good for pickups. Say you need, 30 saves for a pickup. You can kind of go through some goaltenders and say, for example, Bobrovsky's not great for save per game. You can look at who's another one. Let's look at Reimer, for example. Reimer gets 26 saves per game. Francouz gets 31. So I would rather have Francouz as a streamer if I need more saves than James Reimer on average, right? So that's also something that's helpful. You can use this for pickups or just analyzing your own goaltenders. Okay, and then the trade evaluator stays virtually the same. The add drop tool stays completely the same. Still the same kind of stuff. Again, it updates every morning at 5 a.m. If you want to know how to use the team power index, the difference from projections, add drop tool, trade evaluator, all that kind of good stuff, go watch the last video. It explains it really well. So if you haven't already, it's definitely worth getting a new copy of the sheet. There will be a link down in the description below or in the comments below as well, so you can grab the sheet there. And I'm going to be making a video probably tomorrow or this weekend as well that's going to go over what each stat kind of means. So for example, what does IXG4 or IXGF mean? It's individual expected goals for. And so I'll use that video as well to kind of go over both how to use the different analytics, which ones are actual indicators versus which ones you should just use to kind of back up the eye test, for example, and also just kind of what they mean so you understand what all the headers mean for both goaltenders and for skaters. So there you go. Hope you enjoyed the tool. If you have any questions, be sure to ask them down in the comments or join our Discord, which has a really cool tools channel. And Brandon and I are in there fixing things or answering any questions in the tools channel on our Discord. And the Discord link will also be in the description and comments below. Thanks for watching. Catch you next time.